Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Paranormal Crafted. Cryptid rabbit holes, baby. What's shaking and making out there, ladies and gentlemen? Let's see who we got out here. Crafted. I love it. Yes. Hey, Chris, what's going on out there? I'm glad to have you in the show. Let's see here. Sean, what's going on? And welcome, Sean. Catherine. Hello, Catherine. Oh, yeah, don't forget you can support us by sending stars, help us earn more money to make more content. Kathy, welcome to the show, Cassie. Sean, Joanne Jackson. Nice to see Joanne. Hello, welcome back, Joanne. Rebecca, hello. Yes. Any conclusions on the earthquake? Oh, you had to bring that up already? Kelly, hello, Kelly Elliott. Welcome. So, Mr. Decker, what is going on with you this evening?
Oh, not much, guys. Just hanging out tonight at the campsite deep in the Smoky Mountains, ready to hang out and talk a little rabbit holes.
And don't forget, we got Angel sliding in the rear with Tim Welt. Hello there, Tim. I'm glad to have both of you all. So, yes, interesting. We're going to talk about some interesting subjects tonight. We never know what direction we're going to go. That's the interesting part. Which we're going to go. Can you believe I said that?
That was great.
No, it wasn't. We are live, raw, and uncut. I never do go back and audit any of my shows. Hello, Yolanda. Welcome to the show. So, yeah, very interesting. So that'd be another clip that Chris will probably clip out, and we'll have on our blooper reel probably soon, hopefully. But, yeah, so everything going okay with you?
Well, it's going. Life is life, and things happen, and you just kind of keep rolling with it. So, just doing my thing.
Yeah, right. Chris, like, you know it. Yeah, Chris, you got a funny clip off from the other night off those two shows. But, yeah. So where do you want to start tonight?
Well, our guests unfortunately had to reschedule that we had planned tonight. We were going to have some awesome stuff going on. And talking to you earlier, Grizzly, I think we really want to do audience participation kind of night tonight. So we want to field questions anybody might have, any subject they want to dig into, any questions they want to ask about me or you. And in the meantime, while we're pulling stuff up, let's talk about some just one-offs, maybe some short stories or unusual cryptid and paranormal stuff going on out there. Maybe a little bit lesser known. So we can just kind of get some more information and just kind of feed the people a little bit.
Well, I am from Kentucky, and everybody always asks me about the Kentucky goblins.
Absolutely.
So what is the story behind that?
All right. The Kentucky Little Green Men, or the Kelly Little Green Men, or sometimes they are called the Hopkinsville goblins, because it happened just outside of the communities of Kelly and Hopkinsville. I believe it was August 21st, 1955. There was a little family get-together going on with some friends, and they apparently became under attack. by some unknown entities, and it's quite an interesting story. How it all plays out. Um, Essentially, the family showed up at the police station in Hopkinsville, talking about they were attacked by little aliens, and everybody
Yeah.
thought they were crazy. The police officers went out there, didn't find any specific evidence other than evidence of guns being fired from inside the cabin.
Yeah,
Uh,
they shot up the damn house from the
exactly. There was
inside out.
bullet holes through the windows and the doors, and shell casings inside and stuff like that. So the story goes, again, 1955. This was outside of the main community. There was no running water, so one of the people in the house, by the name of Lucky Sutton, heads outside to the well to get some water for the house. And I believe there was 5 adults and 7 children in the house, is the way they tell it.
That is correct.
Okay. And initially, they saw a light kind of flash through and land in the woods a distance away. And they were thinking a meteorite, that kind of thing. Lucky went back inside and got another feller to come out and take a look. And as they were looking, they started seeing this like glowing coming in through the woods. And it was these little creatures they described about 3 or 4 foot tall, big ears. And the description is unclear whether they were wearing some kind of metallic looking suit or if they were metallic kind of looking themselves. Weren't really sure, but it scared the bejesus out of them. So they go running inside and they grab some firearms and bolster up their bravery and go out and take another look. And as one of them is coming off the porch, a hand reaches down from the covered porch and scratches one across the head. They run back inside, and what entails from there is these creatures coming up to the cabin, coming up to the windows, looking in, and the guys inside are trying to protect their family and their kin, and so they start firing. They go outside on the porch and fire, and what's really interesting with these creatures is the people swore they hit them, and when they got hit, they would like kind of bounce off and float away up into the trees, and then eventually come back down and come attack them again, so to speak. Just a fascinating story. And of course, being in Kentucky, a lot of people are chalking it up to too much moonshine. But the thing with that is the matriarch of the family, she didn't allow any moonshine on her property. She was a God-fearing woman and didn't allow that kind of nonsense. So they had to kind of take it for what it was worth, and nobody's ever heard of these critters before. They never showed up again. But an interesting fact is it's where the phrase first became published, little green men, and referring to aliens. That's where the phrase little green men came from. There you go. Yeah, you can pull it all down there. Absolutely fascinating story.
For 4 hours, they shot at these sons of bitches.
Yep.
And this went on, and they went to the police station. They were like, "What in the hell? Calm down, you maniacs! You know what time it is?"
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you something. Now, if I was in a war zone and these creatures were attacking me and my family, and I'm shooting through the walls and doors and windows, and you try and tell me to calm down when I'm seeing stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I freak out over what happens in my studio. Can't you tell already? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And if I understand correctly, the aftermath of it is the family pretty much packed up and left, and then kind of moved areas. They wouldn't go back out there again after being under siege. The way I read it, there are still family members in the area. I was reading. Hold on, my dog's whining. Hush up, Ozzy. He don't like being away from me. I don't know if y'all can hear him or not. But there's still family members living there, and I guess they said the daughter or maybe granddaughter of Lucky Sutton still dresses up as one of these critters for when they have their annual festival, which I thought was really interesting.
So what is very interesting is that UFOologist Jerome Clark wrote that supposed the creatures floated through the trees, and the sound of bullets striking them resembled bullets striking a metal bucket. Clark describes an odd luminous patch along a fence where one of the beings being shot in the woods beyond a green light, which those source could not be determined. However, the descriptions were consistent with foxfire, a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood.
Mm-hmm.
Clark also wrote that the investigations by police, Air Force officers from nearby Fort Campbell, because Campbell is in Kentucky, and civilian UFOologists found no evidence of a hoax. Now, this is on Wikipedia. No evidence of a hoax. However, Brian Dunning reported that the claim that the Air Force investigators, now, ladies and gentlemen, the Air Force, now check this out, showed up the next day at the Lunsford's house and published a number of times by later authors, but they could find no collaborating evidence of this happening. Now, wait a minute. So you're going to show up on a scene and be like, I don't see nothing.
Yep.
You don't see the damn hose through the windows and the doors. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they say also they could not find no collaborating evidence of any of this happening. The 4 military police who accompanied the police officers on that night, military police who accompanied the police officers on that night of the event were from the Army Air Force Base, not an Air Force base, because we don't have an Air Force base down there. Well, we did have one in Louisville, but that got taken away years ago. Now, compared to some alleged creatures to the gremlins, which has some been referred to as the Hobsonville goblins in popular culture, it says. This case is distinguished by its duration, also by the number of witnesses involved. We have plethora of witnesses, right? But in Project Blue Book, which everybody's familiar with, listed this case as a hoax.
Yeah.
And no further comment was further advanced. It was it.
You know what they claim? This is what they claim, that they were scared by a couple of great horned owls. That's
Ladies
what they
and
say.
Gentlemen, I know what a green horned owl looks like. Okay, I'm not that ignorant.
No.
Now, when green things 3 to 4 foot tall float around, coming up on the porch, and ladies and gentlemen, these are country hicks.
They know what owls look like.
Now, you say that all these countrymen and boys are going to grab their shotguns and rifles for no damn reason, shoot up their place, and go in a small town to the police department and report what in the world just happened? I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Especially after 4 hours of seeing these things popping around their house, coming into the windows, and then shooting at them, and then leaving and coming back. They say they got scared by a couple of owls. Now, you know what's interesting about that? Yeah, Chris. I mean, that's the thing, is that they're referred to as the goblins just because they're like little with really big ears. I don't know, Grizzly, if you can find a picture, a drawing, and pull it up. They actually kind of look like what we call now Baby Yoda, right? I mean, if you think about it, that's very similar in looks. But it's also where the design for the gremlins came from, with the little green men and the big ears and stuff. That was the concept from the little green men, was this attack. And it's just, man, you're telling me that for 4 hours this house was under siege, the family was terrified. They finally got the courage to run out to the vehicles and leave because a couple of owls. I think that is insultive, for one, for the family and for anybody that comes from rural Kentucky. And two, it's just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous to think that, you know? Yeah, there you go. That's one of the drawings from them. But what
So
makes it interesting is that nobody has ever really reported a similar incident ever. There was some people that came afterwards and said, I was swimming in a creek a few days later and something grabbed me and tried to pull me under, and they tried to relate that to this incident, or a couple other UFO sightings preceding this, and they tried to go ahead and claim that it was part of the incident. I think those are mostly just kind of fame seekers to go with it. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, hey, but as far as the sighting of the creatures and the incident, it was kind of a one off. And that's what makes it such a fun story. And it's also where we can't really do a whole lot of research other than this is the story that was told. And we have to take the story for what it is.
well, here's how I look at it. I look at, and just like I look at anything, I look at the totality, right? And
Yep.
I always use that on everything, and
Yep.
that's instilled and ingrained in my memory.
Hmm.
And when you have the army, you have the military police, you have UFOologists, you have the Air Force people that don't even are around. That's why they had to show up the next day. Well,
Hmm.
ladies and gentlemen, there's some credibility somewhere, because
Right.
they're not going to show up just because some Hickville law enforcement agency say, you better get your down here because something all hell just broke loose last night. And you're not going to believe this. That's not what
Exactly.
happened.
No.
So I'm sorry. Yeah. So I call bull on that. And you
Absolutely.
talk to people that live down there and that have grandparents that are still alive, or family members that were alive that passed the story down. They're like, hell yeah, it happened. It was all in the papers.
Yep.
The whole town was up in an uproar. They didn't sleep for weeks. Every time they saw a car drive down the street and it flashed in the house, they had flashbacks. Oh hell, are we under attack? So, and it wasn't an owl. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. That's.
Alien Chihuahua. You know what? Chihuahuas are deadly. So
And
yes.
it's funny because the owl thing comes up over and over again that they try and use as an explanation for this weird stuff, right? If y'all are familiar with the Flatwoods Monster, right, out of West Virginia there, one of the things that they said was the same thing. Oh, it was a great horned owl they saw up in a tree that everybody confused this 9 foot tall robotic looking thing coming out of the woods making hissing noises, and not only that, but left an oily residue behind and made the dog sick and die because he was involved in this incident. But yeah, man, that was just an owl too. That was just an owl up in a tree, and it was hissing at him. So everybody thought it was this 9 foot monster in a red. Come on, really?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And, I mean, people ask me all the time, Grizzly, did that actually happen? Yeah, I really do believe beyond a reason that actually did happen. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
talk to people from Harlan County. I talk to people from around that county and in that county. And they're like, yeah, it did happen. Are you not? Yeah, they just don't want to believe it. But yeah,
Hmm.
so it makes you
Absolutely.
wonder. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that's crazy. And, I mean, everybody, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people ask me about that all the time. When he talked about it tonight, I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go. I might as well just go ahead and bring it out for him, let him open the door so he can
Oh
just
yeah.
start it. But yeah, owls. The owls are playing glow in the dark paint they didn't have in 1955, right? So, I mean, these guys, okay, so you picture back in the hollows
Hmm.
and back in the 50s. Now, people in Kentucky, in Tennessee, in the foothills of the mountains of Appalachia, ladies and gentlemen, they go coon hunting in the middle of the night. Now,
Oh yeah.
they don't have flashlights back then. They had lanterns. And they did have flashlights. They were not like the flashlights we have on today's market. They were not very bright.
Nope.
So yes. So I mean that's what I'm saying. They're not afraid.
Mm-mm.
But they shot the hell. I wish somebody would have took some photographs of the house. Now, somebody
Yeah,
told me the house is still standing, but it's overgrown. I don't know if that's true or not.
I've heard the same. I have not had a chance to get up there myself. I would love to get up there sometime and find some surviving family members and clan and just talk to them, because they'll be open. They'll talk about it if you treat them with respect and don't make fools of them, and just find out the story from what they said. Because I find when you start talking to people, the story isn't necessarily what was reported or what we hear. There's differences. There's changes. There's things that got left out, or something that the family tells the family but don't tell nobody else. So I'd be real interested going up there and then getting the story right from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, I would. I would be too. I would.
I,
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. That'd be a good one.
But
Anything
you're
the
not
oh,
gonna.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say if any of the audience members had any questions about that or comments, or they have any input, this show's about you guys and talking to us and getting your questions answered. So don't forget to throw that stuff out there.
Angel, the flatwood monster, has a very twisted
Yep.
history, but the short version is a woman and several children saw something for a few seconds at night and were scared with weak flashlights and more likely suffering from hysteria. Imagine this thing that come on. I can actually give you the full story if you like. Someone else can kind enough to have done this hard research for me for once. It's so when we talk about monsters and cryptids and stuff, when we investigate things, we look at not just one encounter, we look at many, right? And
Hmm.
to try to put things together. But what was weird about the Hopkinsville ones is that all the different agencies that got involved were like, "Oh, it's just owls, and nothing happened." And
Yep.
what do you
Yep.
mean nothing happened? And when you sent the whole damn cavalry down there and then some. And can you imagine being the MPs down there and be like, what in the hell am I doing down here?
Right.
Escorting the police officers that are scared and wee-wee-less. I mean, can you imagine what they were outfitted with? So yeah, I mean, I would love to see that because the family members probably didn't want to go back. Oh, it's all right, man. We got you covered. Look at us. We're fully prepared to take care of
Hmm.
these creatures for you. Hell, we shot at them and it didn't do a damn thing. It
Right. They
probably
just
made them
bounced off
mad.
and floated away.
So I mean, I have no idea. I mean, people see things out in the country that does not
Yeah.
add up. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if they're moonshine or no moonshine or whatnot. And yeah, and there you go, Elon, the new species of owl man. We know it wasn't Mothman because at least somebody would have clipped a wing or something, right?
Right. Right.
But I just cannot imagine shooting something and beyond seeing that and then just floats away. I mean, I know it had to make a noise like or something. It didn't sound like a
Yeah.
Pillsbury Doughboy, like or anything like that, right? I
No,
mean,
I
because
mean,
it got shot and it moved and it didn't like it, so it flew away.
yeah.
I cannot picture these little
Well,
14, 13 or 15 things floating around attacking the
and
damn house.
4 hours. 4 hours. If you got a shotgun out there and you're blasting away at these owls, they're not going to be hanging around. They're not going to keep coming back. You know what I'm saying? So, like, any way you look at it, the idea of this being owls to me is just ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. I think something happened. What it was, we don't know. There's been theories put out there that maybe it was some kind of government testing going on, kind of like an MK Ultra thing, where they're using hallucinogens, like maybe some kind of gas got sprayed over the house. I mean, there's all different kinds of theories on it, but the problem with these theories is there is less evidence to back up these theories than there is evidence to supporting the actual event. Is the reality of it, right? Because they did find evidence of guns being fired from inside the house, but there is no evidence of owls being shot at or gas being brought over on people or whatever. So any theory that they come up to explain it away has more holes than just accepting the story as it was told from the people that experienced it. You know?
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Let's see here. I want to play this video. Let me pull it up here. Let me show you. And I'm only going to float. I'm only going to show this one time here, ladies and gentlemen. And I showed this on one show. I'm going to get rid of the commercials real quick. But let me show you what this cabin would look like. And let me show you what Grizzly would do in this situation right here. So, and I'm not responsible what happens when you watch this video. Do you understand me, ladies and gentlemen? So how you react to this video is on your own discretion. So if you don't want to watch it, tune out for 45 seconds. Stand by. Here we go. I'm just preparing you guys because this is what I would do. And this is what the cabin looked like approximately. Now just prepare yourselves and action.
What the fuck is that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So there we go.
City folk in the woods, huh?
Yeah, right. So I'm just saying that's how I would respond. But I don't know if I would run out on the porch if I saw these 13 to 15 green things flying around.
Right, yeah. For sure.
So, Chris, I had to show that. I don't know if you knew what I was getting ready to do, but Thomas, yes. Yeah, I got the minigun right here, right there. There it goes. But really, you know, I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Now, another thing I was asking Decker before the show, I was asking him about one. I don't know if y'all ever heard this. Is this one actually? What happened to it? It just like disappeared when I played the video. Hell, you all ever heard about the Michigan cryptids that make our skin crawl? Now this one, where the hell did it go to? Hold on, let me go back and click on it. See, you got me so excited. I just was reading it to him. Let's see here. Where is it? See everywhere here. It is called what? No, hold up here. Anyways, go to the next one, Decker. I'll have to find it now.
Oh well, I think you called it the Michigan Crawling Man, is what you had said on, and I've never heard of that, so I'm interested to hear about that one.
Let me type that in.
Yeah, that's what you had said. Another fun one that comes back from up north. When I moved from the jungles of South America, we moved to Upper Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, and I heard about a critter up there out of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and they call it the hodag.
Oh yeah, that's right, the hodag.
Yeah, the hodag. There was a guy, I believe. I got my time frame wrong. I want to say the late 1800s, but I don't think it was that late off. I think it might have been 1900s. The guy's name was Shepherd, and he was a timberman. There was a lot of logging going up there in the north woods of Wisconsin. And he come back from the woods claiming that he had seen this critter, and he described it as well, kind of like a crocodile, but it had like spikes along his back, had two big bull horns, had a great big wide mouth, and just a gnarly looking critter. And nobody had ever heard of it before in the woods, and he was just talking about it. Well, everybody kind of blew him off, but then 3 weeks later, he comes back saying he captured one of these things. And so he started charging people to come see this hodag that he caught. And they had it like in kind of like a dark shed, and people would come in and they could hear and kind of see it moving. It was kind of dark. They couldn't see it too well. But then he'd chase them out because he'd say it was getting agitated and it wasn't safe for them to be in there more than just a few seconds at a time. And so the hodag kind of became a big popular thing in Rhinelander as kind of their local cryptid. Nowadays, they have Hodag festivals. The Hodag is their mascot for the city. He's painted up on the water tower. But the fun thing with the Hodag is it was 100% a hoax. It was completely fake.
Wow.
Yep, completely faked out, right? So basically, the guy knew that the timber logging was coming to an end. The big boom was going to be over soon. The areas were getting logged out from the white pine and different things, and he was trying to find a way to kind of capitalize and bring in some more money. And he came up with the Hodag, and him and some of his cronies put together some raw hides and stuff from a tannery that was local, and put together a bunch of branches and stuff and made a creature. And somebody would sit inside and then snarl and hiss and move around. So people thought this critter was real, but it ended up being a complete hoax on it. But it's still around. The legend is still there. If you go to the tourist, what do you call it? The
Tourist office?
the
Chambers
tourist
of
office,
Commerce?
tourist board. Yeah, those guys. I mean, it's all there. They'll tell you about the history of it. There's newspaper articles, and they make a big festival out of it. So this is one of those ones where they figured out pretty quickly it wasn't real, but it's still legend. It's still out and research it. And even nowadays, if you go to some of the bigger festivals in the country, like the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant over there, when I was there last year, they had a booth for the Hodag, and there's like songs about it, and they got the stuffed animals and stuff. So again, a really, really, really fun supposed monster encounter that unfortunately didn't turn out to be real.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But again, they still capitalize it. They use it for tourism and stuff and all that. And so, a bunch of good came of it. I'm reading Angels here real quick. Let me see.
So I found the article I was talking about.
Okay.
Well, let's see here. So this happened in October 14th, 2017. It was called The Crawling Man of Michigan, and it came out of the city of Indiana, out of the state of Michigan. And it appeared to be, and ladies and gentlemen, I promise you can Google this. It appeared to be a naked guy crawling around on the grass, although it had elongated arms and legs. So the guy is trying to tell people, I can't do this without laughing. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word cryptid as an animal whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated, such as the Yeti. For the following witness to living cryptids, there is no dispute in this series of National Cryptid Society's case files. You will read what the witnesses have experienced in their own words. So now, ladies and gentlemen, what this guy is saying that he's reporting it's not one person. These are many reports of this naked guy crawling around on the grass. And when I first come across this, I'm like, it's the drown. I can't even talk. It's the town. It's the town drunk, right? Okay, we all have them. So he says, keep in mind when reading these accounts, also remember one's perception and memory of an event can be influenced by the emotions, right? I understand that. Felt at the time of the occurrence, which is he's absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm,
and he says the contributors of these series of articles are doing the best they can recount, when in some cases are very shocking and traumatic experiences. Yeah, if I see a naked man, that's gonna cause some PTSD in me. You have your personal cryptid stories you want to share, then he says make a report, and he tells how you can get a hold of them. But he's got these things numbered, and locations: Michigan City, Indiana, near Washington Park. And this is where I'm thinking it is a town drunk. Now, this goes back to summer of 2012. And it says it was the middle of summer. There was heat, lightning. There was a flash over the lake. So were friends and I were at this dude's beach house. It was very late, and he's talking to this guy, right? Maybe an hour or two after sunset, this guy says. We all went outside on the second-story deck to smoke. I was watching the lightning. The house is only a few hundred feet away from the shore. But the walk to the beach just took a minute because there's a grassy dune between it and the shore. So a couple of us noticed a light beam from a flashlight come over the dune, and it was scanning the grass. Like they were walking around or possibly looking for something. Most people on the beach tonight don't use lights because it's pretty much bright all night, unlike Michigan. Because your eyes just get used to it. The light sweeps by something in the grass, and it shines back on it. And it was illuminated. It was very strange. It appeared to be a naked guy crawling around on the grass. He said, although it had elongated arms and legs, it was moving kind of fast, crunched over in the last few seconds, long enough for all of us to have a look at it. He said, after that, the thing ran off. The flashlight shines directly at us and stayed pointing at us after a few seconds, and it was creepy. And we're all like, what the hell? Did you see that? What was that? And we were all asking each other, well, we seen, was that a weird stretched out naked guy? So one of us wanted to go down there to see what we could do if we could find it. And to me, I'm like, are you crazy? I don't want to go down there and find out what it was. But one of the guys was very disappointed that he wanted to go, but he didn't want to go alone. But he knew if he didn't, he would still regret for not doing it. He says the only explanation thing that it could possibly was a drunken, gangling, naked guy. See, what did I say? But he thinks that it didn't look like that, or it could have been because it was abnormally stretched. It was like weird looking. And when the light pointed at us, it freaked everyone out like it was something strange. I can't say. He says, but the height of it was accurately like very big, maybe around 7 foot tall or so. And one of the girls there said her husband said it looked like something from like a Marilyn Manson music video. Now that right there resonates with me because I grew up with Marilyn Manson.
That scared me right there.
Yeah. So the description says tall and slender built, disapparating long arms, legs, and fingers, a breastbone that protrudes outwards and dips inwards, a high arch plateward, crowded teeth, an abnormal curved spine. So, and then they're talking about this individual may affected by Marfan syndrome and suffer from extreme nearsightedness and maybe had heart murmurs. And now they're trying to discredit this person that came forward. So I'm going to show you what this picture looks like. The closest picture that they can. What do you mean I can't go out? I click on it. Wait a minute. Although I can beat you at this game. Hold on here. It says URL not found. Hold on. I know how to beat this. I've done enough research on this part of things. So you're not going to block it for me. Let me present this picture. So the first thing I thought about was the rake, but it sounds similar.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. That's the first thing I heard too. Was definitely sounded like a pale crawler incident right there for sure. Yeah.
So they have witnessed this thing a lot in this area, not just a couple of people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they're on the deck. It's night. They're on the beach. Beyond a reasonable doubt, probably they have had a few drinks underneath their belt. Okay, I ain't gonna deny that. But somebody else walking along that beach had a flashlight, and they saw that, and they saw them up on the deck, and they freaked out, and they were like standing there, like holding that light on them, like, "Did you just see that too?" Because they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had a bird's eye view of this creature. So, yes. I mean, now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I could not handle seeing something like that. I would freak out. That is just like, that's wild. So, but they called it the drunken man because at first, the way it read, when I first read it, it sounded like the town drunk. Because
Sure.
we had it, But it just goes to show that, even in your own state, I would be surprised if you Google your state and cryptids, what stories pop up that have been documented, from newspapers and stuff. Now, back when I was growing up, we had to go to the library. So cramped. So cramped. I don't got my shoes on, but I got these pedals. But we had to go to the library and use microfish. And man, that was a pain to research, right?
Oh, right. Remember that?
Yes. I am not going to say on that one, Yolanda, you are not going to take me on this show, Yolanda. Good try. But anyways, Chris, I know, right? The rake, I can run from dolls, or Dahlia, or doll, yeah. But
dolls.
Anyway,
he's talking about your dolls there in your studio.
Yeah, there we go. She fixed it. She's laughing and trying to type is what it is. But that's the thing. But you don't know what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do agree with Angel. People do, get pumped up and that adrenaline pumps. And, you get three people, in an incident and separate them and ask them, what did you see? Sometimes you get three different descriptions. I always got that a lot on the police, department. Hey, would you tell me what happened in the incident? Well, you get three different stories. So, especially when it comes to car wrecks, when you get people that witnessed a car crash, what happened? Most of the time you got similar stories, but not the exact. So then you had to take the evidence of the skid marks and everything else and put some of the words and testimonies that you got in written statements and sworn affidavits and put all that together with your report and do your best to determine what happened. So, yes. So say what? You just wanted me to say that, didn't you? There you go. You got it.
A really great documentary on the Flatwoods Monster was done by the Small Town Monsters crew. Seth Breedlove and his crew, man, they're great guys. I know them personally, but they have some fabulous documentaries, and that's kind of an angle they approach it too. Is they went to the area and talked to the witnesses of the Flatwoods, and they showed the discrepancies between the story that we were all originally told and kind of started analyzing, and some of the differences when they talked to the people in person. And so absolutely right. There are going to be, and that's where I said I wanted to go talk to the people in Hopkinsville, because that story is going to change just from how the media reported it, which is where we get most of our information from, right? Is the media reporting some of this stuff. And then, researchers will go and check it out. And so I always highly recommend anything from Small Town Monsters. The original documentaries are absolutely fascinating. So check them out to get a little different perspective on some of these stories, for sure.
Yeah, and I always tell people when you hear encounters and stuff, there is probably some validity to it, but take some with a grain of salt and listen. Now, when you start getting other people across a vast amount of land or within a county, telling you the same thing that happened over a span of time, a few days or weeks or a month, then maybe you got something you can bite your teeth or sink your teeth into it. Maybe there is some credibility to it. So, but it's all up for interpretation. So, it's whether you do want to believe or you don't want to believe. Just like that one monster or cryptid you talked about, look how many people fell for that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have your hoaxsters and stuff like that, I mean, you really do. So,
well, that's where critical thinking and analyzing the story and what's going on with it always, it comes to play. And that's the thing as a researcher is I love all the stories and stuff, but I'm never going to say that I believe them all. Now, I'm not going to come out and publicly decry a story if I don't have any evidence. You know what I'm saying? If I don't have anything to back up my negative thoughts on it, I'm not going to come out here and call somebody a fraud. Most definitely not, right? But at the same time, you still got to, like you said, take it with a grain of salt and kind of look at it and analyze it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Now I tell you another one. What was the other one you was talking about earlier too? Didn't you mention another one?
Not that I can remember.
Well, I
But I
do.
mean,
I've got another
this.
one,
Okay, go ahead, shoot.
and I'm going to actually share the screen because we actually, Thomas, if you're still here, Thomas Guesswine, we're going to talk about our famous guy, Greg Host, because he did give me permission to share his story, and we're going to talk about our story, monster cryptid, that lives here in Louisville, Kentucky. I actually lived there when I was a child. It's right
Goat
outside
man.
Waverly Hill. Yeah. We had the train trestle in between Louisville and Spencer County, and it's still a major attraction to investigators. That it's so bad that they still have police patrol it. And I'll show pictures of the train trestle. So what happened was Greg Yost, if you don't know him, he's the Sasquatch guy in Southern Indiana, very well known guy in the cryptid community.
Yeah, goes by Squash Man.
Yep, Squatch Man, exactly. And and he is the guy that when he tells you something, it's go. You don't even question him. That's his credibility. That's how well known this guy is. How well known he's been around the community for all these years. And it says here the Potlick monster of Kentucky is part man, part goat, part sheep. That reportedly lives under a railroad bridge under Potlick Creek. Reports of the Potlick monster are terrifying, sinister. So what happened is there has been a lot of deaths associated with this area, suicides, unfortunately, unexplained deaths. They say that the creature lures you there to that location, and I'll show you pictures in a second here of the train trestle. But what happened is that Greg Yost was over at his friend's house, and he was outside, and the neighbor came over. He's like, and Greg's like, dude, what is wrong with you? And that's the way Greg talks, you know, and he's just a good 6'5", 6'6" country boy. I mean, he's a huge, tall, slender guy. He's like, what is wrong with your neighbor? And he's like, hey, did you not hear what happened last night? And the guy was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, there was something out back in the creek making all kinds of hell and noise. And we were all afraid to go back out there, and there are tracks. And Greg's like, tracks? He's like, what? What are you talking about, tracks? And so Greg doesn't go nowhere without his casting material. And let me bring up his pictures here. Let me bring up my Facebook, because I actually got all this from Greg or Craig. Greg, yeah, Greg. Hold on,
Greg.
Yeah. Let's see here. So this is a good shout out for him. Let's see here. Well, what happened to your? Come back. Here we go. So let's see here. All right, here we go. Now we got some pictures. Now, so he went down to the creek with this guy, and this guy would not shut up. And he wanted to see what was going on. And because he's into stuff, you know, and into the cryptid world and Bigfoot and so forth. And Greg was like, you ain't gonna believe this grizzly. And he pulled out his cell phone and he started laying down money as he's walking. He was like, I start seeing tracks like this in front of each other, not side by side, nothing around them, walking down this creek. And they followed him. And he said, as they walk, he started pulling out money. And this is how big his shoe is, his boot. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, look how deep that is. That's not a very deep impression. Okay. And Greg, remember, he's over 6'4" tall. I don't know how much he weighs. He's not built like a football player, but he's very tall. Look how deep that track is. Okay. Now, as he's walking, he's actually that's a cast. He's actually laying money down. Let me go back here. I can't show you that because I didn't get permission. But he's actually leaving money. Let me get a picture of this. Now, if you look down here by his truck, look how big that track is. Now, look how big his hand is. See the distance between here and the depth of that? Now, if you look at the distance between here and all the way back here. That's the middle finger, ladies and gentlemen. So during the interview, I was talking to him. I was like, man, you got one of those laying around? He's like, man, he said, I made extra because I was afraid the Fish and Wildlife of Kentucky and the DNR was going to confiscate them. Because he went to each state and taunted them about it. Look at this. So back in the old days, the bootleggers would take cow hoofs and they would put them on the bottom of their boots and shoes and walk around the cow pastures. So the police couldn't catch them when they would smuggle booze across the fields into cars that were waiting on the other side of the cornfield and so forth. So now look at this. Now look how deep that is, the impressions. Now remember his hand. I'm going to go back to his hand. So, and when he pulled one out of his carry-on cabinet, I about died because I didn't realize how big it was till he showed me. And I was like, wow. And they were like, you know, in front of each other. So not 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2, like a critter on 4 legs, right? So and Greg's like, that's the goat man, isn't it? And they're like, are you serious? They're like, you see where these tracks are heading to? And you got to remember, so where these tracks started, they were started out of nowhere. They went in one direction, and that was to the train trestle. And what was weird is that right around the corner, probably maybe 4 or 5 blocks, is and I hate to say this, ladies and gentlemen, is a slaughterhouse for the pigs where they do the bacon and sausages for the live hogs. So they don't know if it has any similarities. Let me pull up the train trestle now. But this is very a hot haven. Let's see here. So I'm just going to pull out what just popped up. So, but like I said, they followed them, and but this happened last year, I think. So there's a depiction of the goat man, which somebody said it looked like. There's some other pictures. That's not what I'm looking for. Hold on, let me back out of here.
That one's from a video game.
Yeah. I actually had the bridge is what I was looking for. I actually clicked on. Let me close some of these windows out and stand by.
Hey, let me talk a little bit about this guy. So while this one is definitely called the Popelic monster, critters like this have been reported over a lot of area, not just in Kentucky, but a lot of the Appalachia and out west in the mountains and stuff. These types of creatures have been reported on multiple occasions. Some of the similarities in the report is that these things tend to be highly aggressive, just mean-spirited all the way around, and they attack livestock. They're definitely a predator creature, and they are known to attack and feed on livestock like goats and pigs and whatnot. Some of them are more sheep-like. Some tend to be more goat-like. Some of them have curled like ram horns, which is most commonly reported. Some of them do have, some of them do have more upright horns. But these creatures are not just a one-off thing at Popelic right there. They are seen around the country and around the world. And like I said, they tend to be highly aggressive. I remember hearing a story of a guy out hunting. I can't remember exactly where I heard the story, one of the podcasts that I've listened to, but he was out actually hunting like mountain goat or bighorn sheep or something like that out west, and he got one in his sights and he shot it, but it kind of transformed and stood up and then started looking around for this guy, like trying to figure out what the heck was going on, and so the guy hightailed it out of there. And so, I mean, the hunters have reported these things. Farmers have reported catching these things, like their livestock is raising a ruckus, so they go out thinking it's a bear or something, and they catch sight of one of these things attacking their livestock. And it's absolutely fascinating when you think about it, because these are creatures that you can't call you can't call it a cryptid, right? Because, like you said, the definition of cryptid is an animal purported to exist, but there's no evidence of it existing other than like local, folklore and local people saying. But it's definitely a zoological animal, where this type of creature definitely isn't.
So Yolanda, so we had a guy, Russell Easterbrooks, discuss the Patty Gimlet film. Why Bigfoot tracks are always in line with each other and instead of side by side like humans is because the way they are built in their hips and pelvics.
Yep.
And they're a gait. So, and I have to play the video to really to describe it as it happens. So when these creatures walk, it's not 1 foot right, left, right, left. It's like a woman, and no disrespect to women, walking down a runway.
Yep.
Right in front of the left, how they rotate the hips and how they do that on the runway when they're modeling. It's their natural walk. It's nothing that they do on purpose. Now, I don't want to say too much about this because it gives fakes. Basically, you and I, well, maybe you, but I cannot do it. I tried to impersonate Bigfoot tracks. Number one, I can't get the distance right. And number two, my feet are too small. And number three, it looks like I'm drunk when I'm doing it, when you see the prints. So, yeah, but if you know what you're looking for, you know that it's a hoax. But when he casted these prints, what was weird is they started out of nowhere and the creek bed was pretty wide. And I always tell people, and this is always hindsight because you're in the moment, right? So anytime you come across tracks, the first thing you want to do is take pictures of the area, wide angles, shoot down the creek bed. I want to see all the tracks leading in one direction. I want to see the areas around the creek bed, edge to edge to the grassy areas or the wood line. Because even though that I trust him, there is nothing around these prints, but these prints itself. But to somebody that don't know you, they're like, well, the only thing I'm seeing is how do I know somebody didn't walk up and put a stake in there as he walked? Okay, good, valid point. But, the only thing I'm doing is looking at it as a law enforcement officer, gathering evidence, right? Luckily, he had cast because when he casted these with these tracks, it did not look like the prints that we saw. And he was even taken back when he got them out. He was like, that's how far down it was. And that's why I said, look how long it was compared to his truck, tire, and also how big it was in his hand, that track. And because when he went to Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, and he was like, what's this? And they're like, let me see that. And they're like, oh, that's just a buck. And he was like, really? And let me tell you something. I used to be a deer slayer in my day, and I used to take a minimum 3 a year. Okay. And I used to buy the extra bonus tags. All right. I know what deer tracks look like. I know what buck tracks look like. And I know that for a fact. We don't have moose or elk around here. Well, we have in the southern state now we do because they brought them in years ago. There's a lottery to get to go hunting for them. But my point is, they try to debunk it, and one of them said it was a deformed cow and all this other stuff. But once again, that's not a cow hoof, ladies and gentlemen. I'm from the country. I was around cows. I know what a cow hoof looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in Indiana wanted the impressions, and he's like, "You ain't gonna get them." And they're like, "Well, can we have them?" He's like, "No." And at this point, he's like, "Well, they're gonna confiscate them, but that's all right, suckers, because I got a whole bunch more." But nobody did, so he actually saved them. But take pictures of the area, so it gives everybody a general idea where you're at and what the surroundings look like. In that way, he did the right thing, laying money down as he was walking, because the strides wasn't that far apart. Now imagine a goat, and we have seen a goat, ladies and gentlemen, walk on hind legs. Now that is some spooky crap. If you've never seen a goat with horns walk on their hind legs, I would shot that son of a gun in a heartbeat. Because I would and spray it with holy water and bury it probably about 10 feet deep. So that's spooky. But the thing though is that it walked for a long distance. Now we don't know how long is a pretty good distance because they travel for some time. But you try to get the size of the moose. We don't have moose in Jefferson County or Louisville. So the strides were, I want to say, Bigfoot 4 to 5 or more. But these strides were like, I want to say, if I remember, Greg, tell me if I'm wrong, if you go back to replay and watch it, was around 3 feet. And that sounds about right for a goat, a normal stride on a goat. And whoever has goats or lambs, whatnot, correct me if I'm wrong. So throw it out there. But it was very interesting because, that really started up the community over here for the longest time. It really did. And people were, having nightmares, and every time they heard a noise out back in this creek area, it freaked out. And what was really weird is that this creek where it's at, I used to work off duty between the creek and the hog place. We're just called the hog place. And because they had a problem with flagrants and homeless people on this train trestle, not train trestle, but the train tracks where they would keep all their equipment and tools to fix the train tracks and CSX and Norfolk trains and everything. And these homeless people will come by and dismember the train and take tools off of it at night. So we would have sit there with spotlights up on sections of this train to keep people off of it. And but people would come up and scare the living kajeebies out of me. We had limo tent on our windows, right? And we would watch movies at night with our lights on the train cars. We're like, "Hey, I need to report a missing person, and I haven't seen my buddy in 4 or 5 days." And they're homeless. What are you supposed to tell them? I'm sorry, I'm from, you got to call this number. They're like, "Huh?" You're working off duty, you tell them who to call, or then you call your buddies down. And what do? You don't have an address. You take a description. Where does that go? So, does it eat people? Hell, I don't know. Is it demonic? Somebody asked. It could be. I don't know. And Angel puts down, about cryptozoology and the words put together and so forth. These are things that are unknown. And like Decker says, you hear the goat man not only here in Kentucky, but you hear it in Appalachia, you hear it in other states, you hear it in other country folks area. When I say country folks, I'm referring to other locations. Let me specify that a little bit more. I'm from the country, so when I say country folks, I mean other locations around the country, and it does. And it's not like somebody's going to go up to town while they're pumping gas at your local Kroger and go like, "You ain't going to believe this, Charlie, but I think we had a goat man out back and I got tried." You ain't going to hear that, ladies and gentlemen, because that is taboo. And anything that deals with the evil, it's wild. So, but I just wanted to share that one because I thought that was pretty cool because it's a local Bigfoot investigator, Greg, and everybody knows him and him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Very
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, as far as the demonic question, I don't see everything as demonic or angelic, right? Like I think there's evil things out there that aren't demonic. So I wouldn't say it's demonic. I think that refers to a very specific situation. But I would definitely say that they are on the side of the evil. You know what I mean? Just because of how they interact. Um, the Bible says you know them by their fruit, and the fruit of these guys is not all feel good and fuzzy. You know what I mean? They're definitely, like I said, aggressive and all that kind of stuff. Tim, talking about the Greek mythology, yes and no. The way these things are built, if I was going to compare it to anything in Greek mythology, I would compare it more towards a minotaur, right? Where if we're talking a faun, or like the god Pan in the mythology, they're more of a man and goat kind of mixture with a human upper body and the horns and then a lower goat half. And this creature is more of like a Bigfoot with the ram's head. Nothing human about it, other than the fact that it's bipedal, and we're coming to find that that's not a human trait exclusively. You know what I mean? But and I can tell you this, I have taken a firsthand report of a fawn-like creature out of New Jersey years back, and they called it the Jersey Devil. But what they described to me was exactly what you're talking about, a fawn or a satyr that was sighted in the Pine Barrens out there. So I know what you're saying, and when you use the words, goat man type thing, that's what you're thinking, right? See, that's more humanoid or the human body with goat features. The Poplic monster and what they're talking about is not like that at all. Some people call it a sheep squatch, because
You
of
know
the
what?
description. Yeah.
That is a statue of Pan
Yep.
in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hmm. Okay.
In Louisville, Kentucky. When you brought that up, I had to bring up that statue.
There you go. Yeah.
So now the Jersey Devil. Now, wouldn't that where somebody made a pact or something with the devil or something, and a child was born or something? However, that story goes.
So the original story is Mother Leeds was pregnant with her 13th child. And so she cursed
That's
it,
right.
saying, if
That's
I'm going
right.
to have a
Cursed it.
13th child, let it be a devil, blah, blah, blah. Well,
Right.
I did some research on that one recently because I got into a couple of debates with people because I have a big mouth. And I went back and did a little more research, and come to find out, there was a feud going on between a particular family and a famous person in history who happened to write an almanac by the name of Benjamin Franklin. If I remember correctly, Good Richard's Almanac. Well, apparently there was an author writing another almanac out of New Jersey, and they started basically a war against them. And where the legend of Mother Leeds came from was basically Ben Franklin talking smack on this guy's family. And that's where the legend originated from. I found that to be absolutely fascinating because we don't hear that part of the story at all. But it was a big, like basically media fight, so to speak, between the almanac people. That's where the legend came from of the background of the Jersey Devil, saying that basically the guy was dissing his mama, so to speak. So I find that fascinating. We almost have to throw that out now when discussing the Jersey Devil may or may not be. I just think that's a very interesting background on it. In my opinion, the Jersey Devil is nothing more than a local term for anything strange and weird that's experienced in the Pine Barrens. I don't believe there's any one specific creature that's going to come out as the Jersey Devil. You know what I mean? There's too many different types of reports, too many different descriptions, too many different ideas of how they behave. Napoleon Bonaparte's brother had one of the first sightings of the Jersey Devil. He escaped France and came over this way and built a house out that way. And his description talks about large, scaly legs and it hissing at him. And a lot of people think that was some kind of stork or some kind of big swamp bird that he wasn't familiar with. And then you have people having descriptions of the Jersey Devil, like the famous flap that was sighted of him flying around. It looks kind of like a goat kangaroo with wings kind of a thing. And Lauren Coleman researched that particular flap, and he believes he found the evidence to show that was more of a real estate hoax than anything, trying to scare people out of the area so that a couple of investors could buy up a bunch of property for real cheap and resell it once the scare was over, kind of a thing. So we have the common description right there of the wings and the goat head and hopping around like a kangaroo. And again, the person that I talked to about her Jersey Devil encounter described a fawn, a goat man creeping around the edge of a bonfire that she had gone off into the woods to relieve herself. And there was a big party going on with the bonfire. And while she was out there, she saw this creature creeping through the brush and stuff to kind of skate around the edge of this bonfire. So I just think the Jersey Devil is a catch-all phrase for anything crazy that they see out in the woods.
It could be,
Yeah.
or was it a deformed baby?
Like we just, well, it might have been a deformed baby, but I doubt it flew up the chimney after it was born. So,
Right. Yeah, right. Right. I agree with that. Absolutely.
So that's another fun one, is the Jersey Devil. Absolutely. Any other questions or comments from the audience there?
I thought that was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. That was some good questions and stuff. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Really am. So what we got
Country
for next
Boy
week?
Conversation. Country Boy Chris, is that you, Chris Deems? Well, he was the one that asking about the demonic thing. We were supposed to do a podcast, and I had a huge storm going on, so it didn't.
And he just got whacked, ladies and gentlemen. See, every time we talk about something demonic on my show, somebody gets whacked. So, yes, interesting. I was just about to ask him what is on for next week's agenda. I think he's saying that here he comes, that our guest got hurt. So what's on our next week agenda here?
Well, I'm hoping to have our guest be ready to come back next week. We got some exciting stuff to talk about. He's been doing a lot of research in backmasking, which a lot of you guys are going to be familiar with when we talk about playing music backwards and hearing supposed satanic messages in the rock music, specific rock music, metal music. But what's kind of come out of this phenomenon, and I've heard this in a couple different places now, where you can record somebody having a conversation, okay? Just like us talking back and forth, and play it backwards, and supposedly you can hear the subconscious talking and basically revealing the truth of what we're talking about as we know it. And so our guest has been doing some research on his own into that, and I'm hoping by next week he'll be ready to come on and really kind of share his own research and his own experience in this whole backmasking phenomenon as it applies to just general conversations. So I think that's going to be a fascinating rabbit hole to go down, and its implications of possibly using it as, a truth detecting system. Like if you're recording a criminal or an eyewitness or an alleged criminal of something, and you do it and you play it backwards, and maybe you can hear what the truth really is. So I think it's going to be an absolutely fascinating rabbit hole to go down and see what Luke's going to have to say about that.
That'd be interesting. Well,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, from coast to coast and around the world, that's a wrap. We'll catch you next week. Good job, Decker. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It was a good one, guys.
Take
Y'all
care.
have a great night. Be safe out there.
Godspeed. Bye-bye.